Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Brave and the Boys show. Today we have a very special guest. We have writer and artist Declan is it Shalvey? Declan Shalvey?
Shalvey.
Shalvey, okay. And we are very excited. So the main purpose of our interview today is to talk about the upcoming Terminator comic. But we want to give a love to Thundercats and some of your creator-owned stuff that I've read in the previous weeks trying to get prepared for this interview. So I want to start by saying, was it your dream always to be an artist? Was being a writer something that just happened, or did you always want to just tell stories and you didn't care about the medium, like you were open to all mediums?
I know it was artist. Like artist is what I wanted to be more than anything else when I was growing up. Because I could draw. I was always good at drawing. For whatever age I was always like, a little bit better. And I was. It's something I've been thinking about recently because I always liked my English class and we did essays and stuff. I always liked them, but I never really thought about writing until, once I had a good few years under my belt as an artist, and I realized the stories I liked to tell more than others. And you don't have a whole lot of control over what you end up on. You could end up like hating superheroes, and it's all that you do. I think initially was a case of like wanting to explore different types of stories. Like my first book was an Irish crime graphic novel. It's the first thing that I wrote. That's not necessarily, nobody's paying me to draw that, so I made it.
Was that Bog Bodies?
No, it was a book called Savage Town, and Bog Bodies was kind of a follow up to that. But at that stage, I had been drawing a good while and had a good sense of kind of like what I kind of wanted to do more of. So the writing kind of was born out of like the storyteller I wanted to become, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, I think I've heard you in other interviews say it's nice that as a writer you get to work on multiple stories versus as an artist you're basically like you just got one thing you're working on. So that's got to be...
Well, also like from a slightly cynical standpoint, I can build up a library as a writer much faster than I can as an artist. You can spend years and years and years. I mean, I just looked like, I'm sure you heard John Cassaday passed away yesterday. Yeah. And look at the amazing body of work he was able to build in, I'm going to say a short career, but to pass away at an early age. Planetary, Astonishing X-Men, Star Wars, like he's one of the few that really got to do seminal runs on things. It's not easy to do as an artist. You only have so many pages ultimately in you. And and I'm not saying it's easy to do it as a writer, but you build it up faster. I will soon have more books on my shelf as a writer than I have as an artist, just because of how long it takes to do one.
So do you still consider yourself like an artist first, or at this point, because you're about to have more written books, or have you made the switch from an artist that writes, or are you both a writer artist now?
I would describe myself as an artist writer more than a writer artist.
Okay.
Just because that's where my natural state is to be drawing. I have to force myself to write. I was joking with somebody the other day that like I had to get script to Drew and a script to Luke, and there was somebody else who needed a script too. Oh yeah, me. I forget that like I need to write stuff for myself in order to draw now, which is a great problem to have. But my instincts are art first, story after. So that's why I would say artist writer rather than writer artist. But I realized recently I could probably quit drawing and just write now, which I never ever thought that would be a place to be. But I never want to not be drawing. I always want to be. I think I'll always have a project that I write and draw while doing the other stuff, because I like doing the thing where I'm like, I get to be the egotistical, pretentious, writer artist that gets to be like all egotistical about a project. But I also do really like working with people and other artists and seeing what they do. So I really like the collaborative side of things. But I'm in a very nice place where I get to do both now. I get to collaborate, from being the tip of the creative spear to a degree, where somebody else does all the hard work. But then I also have to do another project where I have to do all the hard work, and I think maybe that keeps me grounded.
I would imagine that being that you were an artist first, that now that you're a writer who has to collaborate with artists, there's probably like extra pressure to be like, okay, I want to make sure I'm not like I'm easy to work with artists, or I'm not like pigeonholing the artist and what they have to draw. Like, so were there some things that you learned or some things that you try to be extra conscious of since you used to be an artist?
Yeah, no, that's dead right. Like, I would say my experiences working with writers is 99.9% positive. Like, I've had very few like bad experiences or complaints. But those bad experiences really stick with you. So I've
Yeah.
never, I want to make sure I'm never that guy. I don't want to be the guy to somebody else that was that guy to me. So I think a lot of it is paying attention. Uh, I find it funny, like, and I would send I'd send like 10 pages to a writer sometimes, and I get like good job,
Oh,
and like, which yes is like, oh god damn it, give me more than that. But at the same
yeah.
time, I actually think it's fine because it keeps you humble,
It's better than all 10 of those were terrible, start over. You know what I mean?
there
Like,
is, yes,
but
there is
I
that.
also know wanting to get feedback. Like sometimes I'll show a YouTube video. I spent 30 hours on editing and stuff. My wife goes, "It was nice," and I'm like, "Oh," but I feel you, man. Um,
But
was
artists are generally extremely insecure and want like pats on the back for every single thing. Um, and I find that hard because I hand in pages about like chunks of 10, but I'm working with artists who are generally handing in stuff like a page a day. Um, and it's hard to compliment somebody every day. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's a forced compliment. It's
Yeah,
just time, you know. I'm so busy, like, so it's. And I also don't want to be going like, "Great job," and just because it
but
sounds like a fob. It sounds like you're fobbing somebody off, you know.
I
But there's
know.
only so many times you can say, "I like this page, good work," in
I can imagine
different ways.
the first time you couldn't think of anything, so you typed in a good job. You flash back to when a writer said that to
A
you, and
little
you're
bit,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I've become what I scorned. Um,
No, I think I find it. I try and take the time to really look at the page and point something out that I quite like. I find it easier when someone has sent me 5 pages. I can point out two things
yeah,
in 2 pages rather than, you know, like feeling like I need to say something about each page because I just sometimes I just can't. But I
yeah,
do in general, even if it's the artist or colorist as well, hand in pages, just take the time to just like point out something that you like, because it just takes a little bit of effort for you. And I know it goes a long way because I've been on
yeah,
the other side of that, where like hearing something that you like it also can be very helpful. One, it can keep your energy going in a way, because like, there's a hierarchy in making comics. So it's like editor, writer, artist, colorist, as a letter as you go down. And I think it's kind of the writer's job to be the cheerleader,
mhm,
and editor's job too, maybe, to be the cheerleader, because the will leaks down.
yeah,
So if you have positive vibes, those go through the whole thing. And if you're a down, I remember I was working with somebody who, whatever day I was talking to them, was really down about something, and I was drawing a page that day, and I'm like, man, like, it's like, if they're kind of feeling down about it, I'm feeling down about it, and that mentality can bleed through the creative process. So I try and make sure that, like, not that I'm like a fake cheerleader or something, but
yeah.
finding something genuinely positive to point out, because I do think that kind of ripples through the creative endeavor.
That's awesome, man. That's really important. I think you're right. Having that vibe and that just that morale for the whole team, as they're all working on something
It's because
collaboratively.
these are long hours, man. It takes a long time to make a comic. It takes much longer to make films and TV and all that. But like comics, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of physical work, drawing wise, but it's a lot of mental work to sustain the physical work, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Like, you can
no,
spend
that
hours
does.
drawing, but if something kind of gets to you, like, you forget that, like, we're not robots, and you do need to kind of keep a certain level I know the word I'm looking for, like a stability in your head to be able to
Yeah.
like actually keep it sustainable, because you can burn out and you can get bummed out, and it can completely affect things. So I do try and keep that in mind, that like, I'm not the type of guy to be like, hey man, you're awesome. Like I
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
I'm sincere to a fault, I think, but um at the same time, I think you can like not sabotage things. And look, it's great. Like when I'm seeing somebody like Luke drawing Terminator, like I'm so happy with the pages. So I would try let him know that. With Drew, like actually Drew, I think is way more positive energy than me. So I think I'm writing off his coattails. So a lot of it is I guess there's a dynamic with the person you're working with too. And look, some people don't want that at all. They just want to be left alone and draw. So it's different experience with everybody.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, this is my friend Bunk right here saying, "So happy to catch this conversation live. This is a conversation about Savage Town Bog Body Crime Universe, right?" He was one of the ones that was pushing me to read Bog Body before we did this interview.
Oh,
Which
cool. Thanks, man.
I did like it. I thought like it reminded me of like a short story I would have read in an English class. Like
Okay, that's cool.
that was kind of the vibe I got from it. And I was also curious about that one specifically. Like you'll hear like Tinian talk about how like he grew up around the forest, and that was kind of a spooky thing that he was able to draw mystery from and spookiness from. Did you like grow up around bogs? Is that like a big like was that like a thing that like you were scared of as a kid or something and you wrote that in your story, or was that just a unique setting?
I get it. It's because I'm Irish, isn't it? How
Oh, I
dare
didn't even
you?
realize.
How
No, but
dare you?
I did have
Just
to
assume
Google.
I grow up around bogs. Oh God, this is so offensive. So offensive. I
I
didn't
did
grow up
have to
around
Google some
bogs.
curse words in that book in bog bodies that I'd
Yeah.
never heard of before.
Well, that was the fun of the book. I didn't grow up around bogs. I grew up around fields, though a lot of fields. I could probably walk 5 minutes and hit a field, but no. I was living in Dublin at the time, right South Dublin, and there's like mountains. Like once you get past the city, like in bog bodies, it starts in the city and moves out. And I
Mhm.
basically lived on the edge of the urban sprawl, and anything past that was basically countryside. And like there's a lot of like, well, basically there's a lot of women went missing over the years there. Um a lot of criminals would have taken care of. That's a weird thing. You're in a city in Dublin, but you're very near the countryside too. So a lot of
Yeah.
people have like disappeared. So that was the real story behind the idea, but it's a totally fictitious story. But yeah, I was just looking out the window one day and I just thought about just the idea came to me. I had done Savage Town, which was like an Irish Sopranos, and I really enjoyed writing Irish characters. I love crime. Crime's like my favorite genre. But like there's not a lot of opportunity to do it in
Which
comics.
which is interesting because I thought I've heard you say in interviews before that you relate and like the Goody Two Shoes characters. So you like
Yeah,
crime, but
that's
you also
true.
like the Goody Two Shoes characters. There's a dichotomy there.
Yeah, or hypocrisy.
Yeah, right.
No, I think I liked the Goody Two Shoe characters growing up.
Okay.
Like the Cyclopses and the Leonardos and stuff.
Or the Lion-O's.
The Lionos, yeah. So growing up, I was definitely like a very kind of you know, um, be a good boy type stuff. But as I grew up, definitely more interested in the greys now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would definitely be like a from adolescence on crime. Like I just love crime stories. But like I said, yeah, there's not. If you're at Brubaker and Phillips, you can do smash hit crime books, but it's outside of that creative team. It's much tougher. So I just wanted to do one, a crime story, two, an Irish set story because everything I had done had been American focused. So I did that with Savage Town and really enjoyed it. And Bog Bodies was a follow up to that. I do have two other stories like in mind to do. I just haven't had two things. I haven't at the time, but also I think after two of those books, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself as the writer of Irish crime stuff only.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so much of comics is genre sci-fi stuff, and I think I wanted to switch over to doing more of that stuff that would probably lead to more opportunities. Um, and not pigeonhole myself. But now that I've done like Time Before Time was the next creator own thing, which was a time travel crime thing. Old Dog was like sci-fi espionage action. So now I feel like I can confidently go back and do an Irish crime thing out of choice, you know, and not be like, not. I mean, look, maybe it's all in my head. Maybe I was totally like unnecessarily worried about it, but I think I just didn't want to pigeonhole myself too early, and also do some more high profile stuff that could help sell the older stuff too, because they're very niche. But whenever anybody says this, Red Bog Bodies, I am genuinely surprised, even though I know it sold well. But it was such a, for anybody who hasn't read it, like it's two Irish lads stuck in a field, criminals, trying to kill two victims basically, and it's that's kind of it. There's a bit of a kind of a.
It is definitely a shorter book,
it.
but like that's why I said it felt like a short story you'd read in an English class. And then
it's only 80 pages, so it's not long. But I just I mean that's as long as the story needed to be. Any longer than that would have been padding. You know, I actually kind of thought of
ran back and forth the field a few more times, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, my thinking was I wanted to kind of write it as a play, not an actual play, but like, you know, set in one location, no breaks, limited cast, just try to do something a bit, because Savage Town sprawled out a bit more. There was loads of characters and loads of this and that. I think I wanted to do something a lot more contained with that, and with Gavin Fullerton, the artist. So, and you know, that's the cool thing with images, you can just have an idea or of a type of thing that you want to do, and just hey, sorry about that.
No worries.
Look, he actually scared me.
Okay, I'm a big animal lover. I don't have dogs anymore. I have cats.
He's very brave once he hears something outside, and then when they come in, he's all like, "Oh, I love you."
What kind of dog?
Terrible guard dog. He's a Pomeranian Shih Tzu mix, I think.
Ooh, Pomeranians are sassy.
Yeah, but he's a little fluff. He's a little. No, wake up. Okay, you're ruining the interview. Sorry.
No, it's okay, man. Dogs
come here.
Dogs are great.
It's nice to have a bit of company in the studio. Hang on, I'll show you.
I'm sure later on, and look at that little cutie. What's his name?
I know. Look at the little face.
Hi.
Loki's his name.
Loki.
There you go.
I'm sure at one point my cats will come in and meow at me or something.
Yeah, mine's downstairs. Like missing out on the company, but anyway, sorry to totally derail there, but
hey, that's the beauty of a live show, right? Is you can't control this wasn't pre-recorded, people, you know.
Yeah, this is what you're paid for, but so thanks for asking about Bog Bodies. I definitely would like to do more of that type of stuff. Excuse me. But
you mentioned
this is the live thing again. Now my tea's gone down the wrong way. We're live, people.
It's okay. Hey, comment us some support, people. All 9 of you that are watching. You mentioned Brubaker and Phillips earlier in the interview. When I was reading Old Dog, I definitely got like a Sleeper vibe to it. Was that an inspiration?
100%. Like definitely, Sleeper was the number one inspiration. I actually haven't read it in years, but like I just kind of I ran on the vibes. You know, I didn't reread it. I bought it. I bought a new collection of it, looking to read it before I started.
The omnibus got reprinted?
Yeah, the really nice hardcover. Yep. So I had it on my shelf, but I never actually reread it. I just kind of went on what I remembered from it, you know.
Yeah, and that actually might be better, you know, because
I think so. Yeah, actually,
that could be better. I actually read Sleeper for the first time this year, so I'm a collected editions reader. So I don't read a lot of week-to-week comics anymore. If you look like my collection, it's all like absolutes are my favorite way to collect omnis and that kind of stuff. So I'm usually really behind on things unless I'm reading for a creator interview that I'm doing.
Fair enough. It's great though, isn't it? It's
my god, right? It was so good. Welcome to being an omnibus owner. Looks great on your shelf, never gets read. You know what? The amount of times I buy an omnibus, but then I read it digitally on the DC app or something instead, because I could be downstairs on the couch instead of stuck at my desk, happens more often than
my problem is I actually do buy monthlies. I order them at my shop in Dublin, my old shop in Dublin. But by the time I read them, the trade's out. You know, as in,
right?
I'll order the trade, so I just end up reading the trade, and I never even opened the single issues. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I try and remind myself, I'm like, look, you're supporting the creators on their books, so, it's fine. It's not smart, but it's supportive.
So I guess my last question before we move on to some of the more recent stuff is, was there something that you were an artist on that looking back, it would have been fun to be the writer to take a crack at that story or that character? And is there something that you were the artist on that, like, if you could pick one absolute edition from your body of work as an artist or one like artist edition, is there a story that you're like, you think stands out that you would love an artist or an absolute edition of?
Moon Knight.
Oh my
I
gosh,
mean,
yes. I've only
know,
read the first trade so far, but it was fantastic, man.
we only did one, so like if it like it wouldn't be an absolute because it's only 6 issues, but like I
Okay,
would
it
love
could
a
be an
really,
artist edition. Yeah.
yeah, or a nice hardcover of the 6. I mean, it's never even been reprinted. It's been it's been sold out for years now. So I would love to have like a nice edition with Marvel printed an art book of mine a couple of years ago, and because there was no extras in the Moon Knight trade, I put what could be extras. So like you could take the book and you could take the extras from the art book and you could make that a hardcover.
So
So yeah, I would or artist edition for sure, like scans of the original artwork because they all sold like straight
yeah,
away. So yeah, that's the even though it's not a creator owned thing, it's just probably one of the best projects I was ever on that I'm most proud of, that I really feel like I did like challenging work that made me level up.
the
Um,
dream issue was fantastic, where he has to go into like when they're like dreaming. And then I had a friend of the channel that wanted me to ask you, I think it was issue 4, the one where he's going into the apartment to save someone. Was that based on the
5.
raid? 5. Was issue 5 based
Um,
on the raid at all? Was that an inspiration?
no, actually, it was actually more inspired by what's it called? The Protector, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's like it was in Korean. What was it from? It was, I can't even think of the name of the actor as well. Amazing martial arts. Sorry, my brain's going out on me now.
No,
He
dude, you're
did
writing like 7 projects. You just said you have 7 projects coming out soon. I expect you to be frazzled, man. So I don't mean to be. Plus, I'm pulling up things from like how long has it been since you drew Moon Knight? I
10 years
won't.
ago. It was.
Whoa. So it's
Mm.
okay if you don't remember the one film you based one single issue on. It's totally okay. I just had a friend that was
So
like convinced it was based on the raid and wanted me to ask you.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't based on the raid. I think the raid came out around the same time. I think it might have come out just afterwards, or like. So my brain's slightly skewed, but the way I remember it is that it was kind of coming out around the same time. So I probably saw it within a month of doing the book, or maybe it was just beforehand. But I'd say we got the ball rolling before the raid came out. I should check actually. It would be very easy to Google to see when the raid came out, but it was kind of in the zeitgeist for sure. But no, there's an excellent martial art artist, and it's not Japanese. It's a different Asian. There's like it's called the Protector, and there's this amazing scene where uh, he's trying to find the elephant from his village, and he goes up this staircase, and he fights bad guys all the way up the staircase, and ultimately, like there's a scene where he breaks everybody's bones. That was a specific thing Warren had mentioned. So we were definitely looking at like Asian action
Yeah.
cinema. But then, by the time we were working on the book, I think the raid came out around then, and there was a moment where I was looking at derelict buildings because it's an old derelict apartment complex, and remember saw like some good reference, and there was like graffiti on the wall that said Gary, and I used the photo to help me draw the reference, draw
Yeah.
destroy building, but I'm not going to like just copy the photo, so I changed it to like Garrett because it was close to Gary. And then someone afterwards like, oh, Gareth, like Gareth Edwards from the raid, like so people started to think that
Oh,
was
that's
me,
such a funny coincidence.
but it's a total accident, like
You could have
So
chose any name in the world that was similar to Gary, but yeah, that's
it just
hilarious.
went, yeah, Gareth. Like I know, look, maybe it was again. I think some
Subconscious, you
things
never
kind of,
know. Yeah.
yeah, that's why like sometimes films about the same things come out, or comics about the same things come out sometimes, because sometimes there's a weird kind of alchemy happening with the
Yeah.
zeitgeist. But no, so I'm not saying like, oh my god, no way was it by the, it wasn't, we weren't trying to do the raid. I just don't think it was it was specifically that. But I mean, we were very much in that kind of area of let's just do a book that's one big long fight sequence. And Warren had mentioned, we both mentioned the same film, but with different scenes.
Nice.
You know, so we definitely come from the same place, but it wasn't. But yeah, but I just want, like, as I remember it, it wasn't let's do the raid, but I think maybe the raid was out at the same time.
You know
By
what?
the time
Maybe
I
the
was drawing
raid
it,
came out later and they saw your comic book. Maybe you inspired.
I would love to think that's the case, but I
said,
don't
hey, my
think
name's
so.
Garrett. It's on the wall right there. I'm making this movie.
Yeah. Was why is Declan? This what was it? What was the raid? It was, where was it made? It was wasn't the Taiwan, or I can't remember. I know it's a Welsh director, and he filmed it in Singapore or something. You know, it wasn't. It was a different. It wasn't like one of the main Asian action franchise kind of countries. Like, I remember standing out because Gareth Edwards went to that country to do it. But
yeah, it says it's an Indonesian action thriller film.
Right, there you go. So which was very different at the time. But I think the Protector was something along the same lines. I'm going to have to Google this.
Cool.
Protector.
And I'll do that. I'll go through some of the comments. We have Bunk saying it's going to be, lads, we're in for a grand time. Bat Kato saying should be a good one. Comics are dope saying this is going to be good. Hopefully we've lived up to the pressure that you guys have thrown at us. Yes, a Fifth of Jack right here is a, oh, why's my mouse not working? He's a massive Thundercats fan, so he was very excited for this interview.
Okay, sorry, just to so we can wrap up the previous bit. It was it was the Protector, it was Tony Jaa, and travels to Australia to retrieve stolen elephants, which is again hilarious because he's going,
why
where's
is
my
elephant on that
elephant?
movie already, right? Like,
oh man, you have to see it. It's savage. Like, he just, you know, it's like it was a total different kind of like fighting style at the time.
I'm gonna write down the name so I don't forget it. The Protector.
Yeah, the Protector. 2006, it came out, but and Tony Jaa had a previous film that was unreal as well. So this is amazing for all your.
Can I be honest? You know what? I just do this because I like to talk to creators, man. I love comic books so much, and this is as close as I can get to the industry. So
Fair
you know
enough.
what? People chat down below. Do you love us Googling films? Give us some love.
Joe Ong Bak, that was the first film of his I saw, and that's amazing. Yeah, Ong Bak. It looks like there's a couple of sequels, but anyway, so I think those were what we were talking about at the time. And then the raid was, I'd say it definitely fueled me too. But anyway, sorry, you have more questions.
No, I just feel I want to get to Thundercats and Terminators. I feel like I could talk to you all day, man. So
I do talk on.
It's okay. Honestly, the real meat of an interview is the tangent that you go on after I ask the question. That's what I feel like. Man.
Sure.
So Thundercats, I did finish reading. Was the first arc called Omens, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you did grow up watching Thundercats. I saw that on an interview. Did you grow up watching were you a fan of the Terminator movies? Like, what was your relationship to those movies? Or I guess there's even TV shows of Terminator. Like, what was your relationship with Terminator?
I mean, I wasn't huge into. I was. I had similar problem with Alien, that I was very scared of all the coolest films that were coming out when I was a kid. But I have a very strong memory of seeing Terminator when I was in school. We had a play. We were doing a play, and then the teachers would let us watch a film while we were away getting started, and it was Terminator 2. And I just remembered the skull and the robot foot coming down. So weirdly, my first experience with Terminator is Terminator 2. I'm of that generation.
You know what? I think I'm the same thing because my parents had the VCR with like the silver skull on it, and I remember I thought it looked scary. I don't think I saw.
Yeah, so I don't.
For way longer.
And you don't really need to know. You don't need to have watched Terminator to watch Terminator 2 because they do a good job of kind of like explaining the concept. So for years, it was just Terminator 2. I never saw Terminator. I think I saw Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines in cinema, and it was fine.
I don't think that was as good as the first two.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I don't know if it was good at all. I can't remember. I remember not particularly liking it. I did see some of the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show. I
I
liked
watched
that.
I watched a lot of that. I think I was the right age where that kind of TV show was like big for me.
Well, if you look at it now, I mean, I think I only saw the first few episodes because I didn't have the channels and I just happened to be able to see the first couple. But it's a Garrett Head. What's the actor who is from Deadwood? Garrett Hedlund or something like that.
Wait, is that why
Was
you
the
wrote
Terminator?
Garrett on the? Is that why you wrote Garrett on?
No, it's Garrett with a double T.
Oh, okay.
But he's a phenomenal actor, and like I wouldn't have known him at the time, but like he was the Terminator, and Lena Headley was the Sarah Connor. Like actually,
Yeah, Lena Headley was, and then I can look up the IMDb. So Lena Headey
was a great
Sarah
cast.
Connor, which was fantastic, and then Summer Glau was the Terminator. Was like the
that
good
was
Terminator.
that was it. Yeah. And she was
I
great.
remember
Like,
thinking she was so beautiful to me when I was a young middle schooler.
Yeah, well, I was just like, oh, Summer's doing something from Firefly, but so now, no, but like I can't say I watched the whole series. I just saw a couple of episodes, but I did like it, and I think I recently watched Salvation, and that was better than I thought it was going to be. But look, ultimately, Terminator.
Christian Bale one? What was? I think the Christian Bale one was the last one I saw.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see Genesis or Dark Fate, but like to be honest, I was kind of tapped out at that stage.
Yeah.
And that's why, it's why I'm doing something different with this book, because like I just feel like things have gone that way with the kind of film franchise, which is fine, but it's not really what I'm interested in anymore, whereas Terminator 2 I think is an absolutely unbridled masterpiece. So you rarely go back. You generally go forward with a franchise, and if you watch the first one, fair enough, but because the second one was, to me, like perfect, I didn't see the point of going back to the first one because it looked kind of like, cheap or tacky in comparison. But then I did eventually watch it years ago, and I was like, this is great. Like, and rewatching it when I was offered the book, I realized there's so much potential with the concept that could go this way, when it just, I'm used to it going that way because I came in on board when it was going that way, if you know what I mean, with Terminator 2. Whereas you go back to the original
action, like the more action side versus like the sci-fi horror.
No, well, the more sci-fi, like, I mean, the first movie is more like a B movie. If you go back to it, it's basically a thriller with some robot stuff at the end. It's a murder. It's like a violent murder thriller. With like some cool creature effects near the end. And that's not a slight on it. Like, it clearly was innovative for its time, but I think that's what's cool about it. And it gets more kind of high octane, massive. The stakes become big. The lore becomes very important. And it was something that happened with Thundercats too, in that, like, I'm not particularly interested in the lore. I was interested in the characters. So with Terminator, again, I just feel like the Connors, like, the Sarah Connor part of it all has been complete. I mean, they've used it plenty. It's not like we need to see more of that. We've seen plenty of it. And also, to be honest, the license that we have is specific to the first film, so I can't really use anything from subsequent films. But I mean, it's all really there in the core idea. Sarah Connor, Reese, John Connor. So that stuff can be used. But again, I just realized, I just thought, like, I just don't think we need to see this again. We can, and it'll be fun for an issue, but like, it's not going to be particularly interesting. I just watched the anime that came out, the Terminator Zero, and I was really impressed. Oh yeah, I'm surprised no one's talking about it. It came out last week. It's great. It's really cool.
What?
I'm not an anime. Yeah, it came out last week. It's like 8 episodes. And I'm not an anime guy. I'm not like mad into anime or anything, but I thought, like, it's the guy who wrote the Batman film wrote it, Mason Tomlin.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah.
But what I really liked about it was that it just went to, like, it felt more like a unsettling thriller. I knew there's robots and stuff and everything, like, so it's not like it's not sci-fi, but I just I thought they found a new angle on it, which was cool, especially when I'm working on a new angle of it. I'm like, okay, no, this, I feel like this is a good decision.
Hopefully it was different enough. Hopefully it wasn't like that came out and you're like, that was my angle,
No, thankfully no. I mean, I don't know whatever the freedoms they did or didn't have with that, but um, uh, like they're what I like about the anime is like you have characters you care about that go through it. That's what I'm trying to do too, but I'm limiting myself to like basically standalone issues done in ones. So my challenge is to make you care about new characters every issue, in different scenarios. So it's not as expansive as the anime, but I think there's plenty of room to do stuff like that. The issue 2 and 3 is set in Vietnam.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's a Terminator in Vietnam, and I just think that's
That's
fun.
cool. That's a unique concept.
Exactly. Now, does it need to be an arc? Like, does it need to be a 6-issue arc? No. Is one issue enough for it? I don't think so. So that's going to be 2 issues. Then it's 1 issue for the next one. So that's kind of where I'm going for. I want to do it like it's a TV show in that it's episodic, and some stories are bigger. We'll have a little bit more room. But I didn't want to do 2 story arcs in 10 issues.
Okay,
I feel there's so much more room to go to different places. So I'm trying to just do a lot of that, like something new nearly every issue.
Was that like a nice freedom after writing Thundercats where it was like one full arc?
Yeah, I mean with Thundercats, I am still trying to do like entertaining single issues, but there's definitely like issue 6, it's Panthro in the Thunder Tank. Issue 7 is the Cubs off an adventure, but it is still part of a very specific arc. And with Thundercats now like getting extended from initially it was just going to be like 12 or 15 issues. Now we're going into I'm going to be planning year 2 next, which is not, I didn't know that was going to happen. So that's fun challenge. But at the same time, Terminator, which is it's more limited in scope, that's fun to do as well. I don't think I want to be planning 2 whole different universes. So Thundercats is one, and that's expanding into new things, whereas Terminator is just kind of like in its own lane, and that's perfectly that's a nice thing to slip into. Do a cool story, pop back out.
Oh, Volume 1 Omens was it 5 issues?
It's 5, yeah. It's 4. Yeah, it's 4 issues with a kind of a one shot that still is part of the arc.
I really like the one. The one shot was was that the one where he was fighting with Chitra, and she was like trying to help him work through his stuff. I noticed like a big art style difference. It seemed like to me. Was that intentional or?
Well, that's down to it was actually Stephen Mooney was the writer and artist, so he wrote that as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the point was, well, we were thinking we could have guests come in because it's a monthly book and Drew worked so hard on it. Having a little bit of a kind of breather for him would be helpful. Yeah. But Stephen Mooney is a good friend of mine, but I didn't suggest him. It was Nate's idea. And the question was, will I write it for him or will he write and draw it? And I just think Stephen's a really good writer. So I just stepped back for that issue, and I mean he still ran it by me. Basically, he sent me the story idea, and I was pretty hands off. I thought it was going to be a lot more standalone, but he actually kind of wrote the story that kind of.
Oh yeah, I thought it was incredibly important.
Yeah, it responds to everything that happened beforehand, which is really cool. I didn't think I if it were me, I think I would have done something way more standalone. But he actually really he responded to what was happening in the book. So that was a nice.
Rhino worked through some issues in that one. You know what I mean? Like he finally he took his lumps, but he came out better for it. Which was to me it felt different, but also not so different that it took me out of the trade paper that I was reading. It was its own style, but definitely still a through line to the story.
Yeah, I mean, and there'll be bits of that. Like, I'm working issue 10 will be so it's 4 issue arcs with a one shot to wrap up the arc, basically. So Drew is drawing the main story, and the one shots are kind of like complementary to the main story. So issue 10 is like a slight one shot, basically, but it will be kind of. It's not unrelated to the main story that's been going on, but and Joe's stuff is, I would say, like kind of more stylized than Drew's.
Yeah.
Kind of more similar than Steven's, but still, I think like it's fun to invite somebody to come in and play in the world a little bit, and it also means Drew can draw all the other issues rather than having somebody step in for like an arc or something like that. It means it's mine and Drew's book, and then we have kind of like guest stars to come in and do fun stuff.
I didn't even realize it was a different writer because it fit the through line. Okay, so my next question is: I saw that someone gifted you the sword from Thundercats as a prop when they heard you were writing it. Yep. What prop do you want from the Terminator universe from a fan?
Oh, got it here. Prop from the Terminator.
So yeah, so a fan comes up, huge Terminator fan. What prop are you secretly hoping you get at a convention someday?
Well, I had not trouble, but I got stopped at security coming back from America with this. So maybe not a gun.
Okay.
I'd love one of those rifles, those class energy rifles. That probably, but maybe that's not such a good idea. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, if I could like get anything, I would love like a Terminator skull. I think that would be savage. But that would be a bit much to get a convention, I think.
Hey, you know what? Maybe there's a huge Terminator fan out there that is going to gift that to you. You know.
Yeah, but maybe a metal skull in my bag also wouldn't be great going through the airport.
You're right. Maybe it's hard because I didn't realize there'd be the added layer of give me a recognizable prop from Terminator that also doesn't mess you up at security. So
yeah, that's because generally I'm traveling to the States.
So if security didn't matter, you either take a big rifle or a metal skull. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Cool, man. So my next question would be, so I was reading Old Dog yesterday, and it was so fun because I got to have my wife get squeamish when I showed her the scene where he talks about how he eats his vegetables and just says Popeye. That was my favorite part of that whole book. Honestly, I don't know why.
Cool.
I feel like Jack Lynch kept referencing TV shows throughout the book, and no one would respond to it. But because I feel like
he's no guy, you know.
Yeah, right. But that part right there, that part made my wife squirm, so that was fun.
That's cool. No, I mean, yeah, I like outdated pop culture references. That's always fun. But thanks, man. I mean, I was worried that might be a bit too much, but I didn't actually show.
Yeah, it was honestly one of those situations where less was more, where it's like the shadow and you see I feel like that was honestly the right way to do it.
Well, I mean, sorry, I'm also actually reason what would be safe from Terminator would be the what was the thing, sure, that chip that comes out of his brain, the CPU, isn't it?
Yep.
Melted computer chip, that would be good too. Yeah, that'd be safe. Sorry, but as regards Old Dog, when you're doing your own creator-owned book, the thing is the gloves are off and you can do whatever you want and show whatever you want, which is great. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. So that's always an interesting place where you don't have licensors saying what you can and can't do. So the temptation can be, maybe a slightly immature response to be like, well, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
But like. But that's where you really need to kind of like check with yourself too, And I mean, I have an editor on the book too, and she's good to like have me check in with myself and look, if I wanted to show an eye, I could do that. But you know what? I don't really want to draw that either. I like body horror, but like to a degree because
there's a fair amount of body horror in Old Dog already, right?
Exactly, but it's not like. It's not surgery.
Yeah.
Because I'd have to look that up, and I don't want to see that. I don't want like you see shows, with those TV shows and they're showing surgery. And like, no, I don't want to like. I don't like seeing the real things. I like drawing made up gore.
Okay,
not,
you're okay. That's it was definitely made up body horror, I think.
I like all that stuff. Like I did an issue of the Hulk, and there's plenty of body horror in there too. But again, it's the Hulk. It's not like, it's not like. Your grandmother's having certain like that kind of like real that would freak me out. I can't. I wouldn't be able to handle that.
We have Bat Cato saying I really enjoyed Old Dog.
So, thanks, man. It's a weird thing is I just have no idea who's reading it and how and
I will say that Yeah.
Mhm.
I kind of want to read it a second time because I was so like, I felt like it jumps around so much that I was like, and then it comes together at the end that I feel like it's really gonna benefit from a second go through, you know?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I kind of rode myself into a corner with this in that I can't leave it. Like, I know where the story ends ultimately, so I wrote myself into a thing where, well, I'm going to have to come back and finish this. I
Yeah.
can't leave the reader hanging. But I just did an anthology that'll be out September 26th, I think. So like in a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, 2.5, just in 2.5 weeks. So it's an anthology. I've written and drawn a story for it, but I also have like other short stories by other people like Charles Soule and
Oh,
Matthias Bergara, Leonardo Romero, um, Chris Sprouse, like people who I've looked up to for years and knew. Actually, Luke Sparrow, who's drawing Terminator, he did a story for it as well that I wrote. And that's really fun. Like I'm saying with the creator on stuff, is you can put stuff together like that. I can't put together a Moon Knight anthology, which would be fun,
that'd
but I
be
can
cool
put
though.
together. It would be cool. Although, sorry, I'm also doing a Moon Knight anthology. I wrote a story for Phases of the Moon Knight.
Uh-huh.
It's like a 15-page. It was pitched to me as a short story, which is generally 6 pages, but it's actually 15 pages, so it's not that short. It's
So
really
it's
an issue.
slightly less short story.
Yeah, it's more.
It's a
It's
medium story.
slightly short of the full story, is what it is.
Yeah.
But I created a new Moon Knight for that, which is really fun. But no, with the Old Dog anthology, like I just got to pick people whose work I really like, and just put together a book, because I wanted something to come out while I was working on Mystique, because that's like basically this year, and I didn't want to leave readers completely hanging for like 2 years till the next volume. So that's out in a couple of weeks. So if you're reading Old Dog, I checked it out. It's really really fun. Some
Is
amazing
it
work.
an Old Dog anthology or is it just an
Yeah,
anthology story? Oh, okay, cool.
yeah. Sorry. So it's a 64-page anthology book, one shot.
Nice. Okay,
So
cool.
story by me, and like there's like 8 other stories. And yeah, it's really really cool. Like I got to write a story for Matthias Bergara, and I colored the Chris Sprouse story that Alex Packnadell wrote. It was really fun to just kind of get stuck in and work on all the different kind of, like you're saying about writing comics opposed to drawing them, like coloring them and editing them too. So like doing all elements of making a comic is a great learning experience, and a hell of a lot of work. I thought it would be easier. It might have been easier just to do a 60-page book myself.
So I wanna highlight this really fast. This is from Dom, who I think interviewed you recently.
Oh yeah,
Old
yeah.
Dog
Hey
is
Dom.
rad. I messaged him like halfway through Old Dog, and I was like, "Dude, I'm so lost. What's going on?" And he's like, "Just keep reading, man." Um, but what was it like? So
Well, and
you've
look, that is
obviously,
the tough thing with the creator own thing is like if it's Deadpool, it's going to go somewhere because you know the
yeah,
character. With a new thing, it's tough because you are expecting. You don't want to drip. You don't want to just like feed stuff to the reader in an easy way because like that's not challenging. Um, but it's also tough to go stick with it. It's going somewhere.
yeah,
But I think it's ultimately the second attitude is what makes it a book that you'll read again, as opposed to the first one. You'll probably read it and go, "Oh yeah, I know what this is," and then never read it again. And I'm somebody who I want to make books that you will go back and read again. Like I think you get
the
more value out of those.
in my head I was like, this feels like Sleeper mixed with Tenet from Christopher Nolan a little bit. Like was my
It's
the two
exactly
really?
exactly what I was going for. Yeah,
Oh my
exactly. Yeah,
god. Okay,
yeah.
that was
Like
a big
I
yeah.
said, I described it as Winter Soldier meets uh the Americans or something.
Yeah.
No, I said Mission Impossible meets Winter Soldier because it was the most big pop culture way I could describe it. If
Yeah.
I said Tenet meets
Sleeper.
Sleeper, very few people were going to get that, but it
But
is
that's
more accurate.
okay. Um, that was fun. What so you've obviously played in both the Marvel world of like using characters like Deadpool and Old Man Wolverine, and you've played in the licensed world with Aliens and Thundercats and Terminator. What was it like being on the other end and seeing people play in your creator-owned sandbox?
It was really cool. Like I tried to keep it open. I didn't say what you can't. There was one thing I asked people to kind of avoid because I think sometimes you'll jump on the most prized possibility, but everyone's going to do that. So I asked them to avoid one thing, if they could. Some didn't, but that's fine. It's fine if one person does a story about X, but if 9 people do story about X, then the anthology isn't interesting, you know.
Yeah.
There's one story, Roy McConville, who wrote Time Before Time with me. He did a story, and I'm laughing because Dave O'Sullivan was the artist, and Rory wrote a really cool story about 2 Black Circle agents, and you just see Jack Lynch in one panel.
Oh, that's great.
It is great, but Dave was like, I really wanted to draw Jack Lynch. He only got to do it
for one panel, though, right?
Yeah, but I think he wanted to do more of a Jack Lynch story, like, you know. But that's just the way things go sometimes, you know. So that's, you know, and like, you know, Sumi Kesgin did a very kind of, she did a kind of like a weird story about like a dream sequence with gods. You know, I would have never done that. And it wasn't like, no, you can't do that. Is it? Like, it was like, that's cool. It's seeing what people will bring to something. Again, it's the cool thing about collaboration is if you can get over the fact that your idea isn't necessarily the best idea, you know, it's your idea. But like, you know, when I worked with Warren and Geordie on Moon Knight and Injection, you know, Warren had great ideas. I had ideas. Geordie had great ideas. And if I was to go like, no, mine are the ones that I'm going to draw, then I'm leaving great stuff on the table, you know. Just because it's your idea doesn't mean it's the best one. Now, I'd like to think generally that it is, but I'm okay. I'm okay to admit that like sometimes it isn't. So yeah, there's just some cool stuff. Like man, getting to see Chris Sprouse draw a character that I created, and it wasn't even Jack Lynch. He's not even in that story. It's a villain. I'm like, how cool is that? Like, I grew up reading Chris Sprouse like stories, you know, and here he's drawing my guy, and then I'm getting to color him. How cool! Like, you just don't get to do that. Those opportunities are very rare on work for hire books. They can happen. Like, we needed another artist on Alien, and rather than bringing somebody else, I hopped in and drew like a flashback kind of story. So I got to write, draw, and color an Alien book. Not all of it, but some of it. But it was fun to kind of hop in there. But those kind of situations don't often become available. With something like where I got like Rory is someone who I think is an amazing writer, and I could give it to him. And Dave's an amazing artist. I give it to him. Luke is starting out on like that Old Dog story was kind of an audition for Terminator. I found him, and then like, you know, Charles Soule wrote my character. Like, that stuff is
that's crazy.
Like, it's hard to find those moments when you're a creator to be a fan again.
Yeah.
And that's just an experience you can't imagine. So I think I'm reveling in it now because it was so much work to put it together. I'm now kind of just acknowledging like, this was cool. You know, Drew Moss did a cover for it and I colored it. You know, getting to mishmash in with the process was great, and I really liked it. It was exhausting. I don't think I could do it again for a few years, but I'm very, very glad and proud and happy with the end result.
Was there any, and you don't have to give specifics because I don't want to spoil anything. Was there any idea that was brought up in the anthology series, not created by you, that you were like, wow, that's a great idea, and it affects what's happening in the future books?
No, nothing. I mean, that's a delicate line to walk for sure. One story took a kind of liberty that I could have pushed back on, but I thought it would be a good story. So I'm going to have to examine that going forward, how I'll deal with that. But I don't think that's a bad thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, my instinct was to go like, oh no, I haven't done that. But like, it was Charles's story, and I'm lucky to get Charles, so I'm not likely to go like, hey, don't do that. Because if somebody as busy and successful as Charles has an idea he wants to do, then I really think I should just let him do it.
Yeah.
but it wasn't. It didn't
That'd be hard to give
contradict.
a note to your hero, or an editor note to your hero.
Yeah, or no, to somebody who like does not need to do this.
Yeah.
I'll actually tell you. I'll tell you another thing. He didn't let me pay him for it either. So
Oh
like,
wow.
I was going. I was trying to pay him, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't bloody take it. Um. So like, I'm very lucky to get him. Now, on one hand, you could go like, well, then aren't you not just pandering to him? But I'm like, it stopped me and made me think, is this something I can work with later? Then yes, and it's not a bad thing, to have something within your own world where it's all in your own head. I think it can be good to have something to push back against or to try and work in some way.
Yeah.
A lot of Old Dog is me writing enough space that I can kind of come in and develop the gaps. Not like, with work for hire stuff, you kind of need to give everything up front, and there's not a lot of room to play around with. Thundercats actually is good in the way that I can play around with, but other jobs you kind of need to like signpost everything. And Old Dog is a project that I don't want to signpost everything because I don't want to get bored with it by the time I'm drawing it. So having this kind of, I guess, exposed wire of the anthology where other people can kind of hop on and do something, I think is good because I think it maybe keeps the concept a bit fresher for me, that I need to dance with it too, rather than just, just kind of going on blindly.
Yeah,
If that
sometimes
makes sense.
I feel like if I ever play like Dungeons and Dragons, having those rules or something that you have to like, it's imagination that runs free, but there's boundaries can make a better story, I think,
Yeah, no,
that's how
I'm
I
very
feel
much
like
in favor of that. Actually, it's different when it's your own thing because the boundaries are completely self-imposed. Like I said,
Yeah.
with Terminator, I can only work within the continuity of the first film. First, you're like, oh god damn it, now I can't. But then you go, actually, no, there's lots you can do with that. When it's creator-owned, the boundaries are completely self-imposed, so it's really up to you to try and come up with these dividing lines, which isn't easy. When I start writing the next one, I'm going to have to go through the anthology and just see like what, well, I want the anthologies to be kind of a side thing. They're not inherently, they don't move the main story along. But I also, would like to integrate stuff that, like, okay, for example, Rory and Dave basically created two characters,
Oh wow, okay.
and maybe I'll do something with one of those. That'll be cool. Um, I'm open to that, and
Yeah.
also he introduced, like, the cool thing with anthologies is you can just do short, sharp ideas and put them out there. My problem with Old Dog was that I wanted to show lots of adventures, but you only have one trade to start with. So that's why it's 6 issues and not 5, because I wanted to have as many missions as possible. The advantage with the anthology is in the space of 60 pages, I can get 9 more missions done, which creates a more of a kind of more of a backlog of adventures for Jack, that he hasn't just done 4 things. He's done now we know he's done 10, 15. So that kind of enriches his
Well, it
mission book,
enriches the
as it
whole
were.
world, I'd imagine, because I mean,
Yeah,
if it's a character that you had like as a B or side character, then we get a full anthology story of that character. It just enlarges the lived-in world.
yeah, it does a good job of kind of building out it does a good job of having some world building that doesn't take up the real estate of the main narrative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can I do a flashback issue of Jack? Absolutely, but like, that anthology now, it's just done a bit more foundation work without taking away from the main volume 1.
Well, I
So
feel
it's
like
it's
half the
additive,
book was a flashback. It was always like 8 years ago, 3 days later, 2 days from yesterday. It
Sure.
was like, we have friend of the channel, Super Laugh Hard, saying, "Is Thundercats likely to have any more spin-off titles? Chitra is great. Are we getting a Pantheros spin-off?"
Not as yet, but I can say there's definitely spin-off in the works to replace Chitara, because Chitara's a miniseries. So I'm trying to think. I think next month I'm trying to get solicitations and stuff in my head. I'm pretty sure we'll find out next month what the spin-off will be.
He says, "Awesome."
There
He's
may
excited.
Yeah, there's actually, I'm trying to dance very carefully here. You might have seen some teases already. I've definitely retweeted some stuff. I think we've seen the tease of who is Apex, the new character that's going to appear in issue 8. He's going to be pretty important going forward. So yes, there will be an announcement fairly soon, I would say, of the next spin-off. Which also I'm glad we're doing, but I'm glad we're not doing too much too soon as well. Like I think
Yeah.
Chitara was a nice, similarly what we're saying about Old Dog. Chitara was a nice way of doing a lot of kind of like backstory world building from what happened with the Thundercats, rather than, I don't think that needs to be in the main book. You know, all that stuff is a great mini on its own, and better. In the space of time in the last year now, we've managed to do a lot of backstory stuff for Chitara while keeping the main story moving forward. So, so there will be the Thunderverse shall be expanding. We'll put it that way.
There we go. He said he's remembered you saying in Omar's interview of getting a Thunderverse. And then Bunk, I think we kind of answered this already. You just wanted to not be pigeonholed as the Irish crime guy, which now you're a bunch of different things. You're the Terminator guy, the Thunderverse guy. I'm
surprised anyone remembers I did Irish crime stories. But no, Bunk Master B. I have two actual proper ideas I want to do. One with another artist, one that I wanted to write and draw myself. But like the one I want, I mean, that's it, because there's one I really want to do is the one I want to write and draw myself. But I don't know if you've noticed, I am writing and drawing Old Dog, and if not that Mystique, then if not that Aliens. Like it's trying to find the time in the day. Like, when am I going to find the time to write and draw a graphic novel? I don't know. Like, I don't know when. And I could have somebody else draw. I mean, Bog Bodies I could have done myself, but I wanted to get that out more than I wanted to draw it. But this idea I want to draw, and I just don't know when I'll be able to. Like, I'll have to. When I finish Mystique at the end of the year, I'm going to do a 40-page Old Dog one-shot. And then I might... I mean, you tell me, like, is it annoying if I stopped Old Dog and then did a graphic novel of a totally different story? Would you not be going like, come on, do more Old Dog? Like, I don't know what the reader thinks. So, like, how would you feel if you had to wait longer to get more Old Dog, but you get a whole other thing?
We're the wrong side of comic book YouTube to ask, because a lot of us, Blunkmaster, he'd buy single issues. But for me, I'm a collected editions reader. I didn't read Sleeper till this year. You know what I mean? So like sometimes for me, here we go. He says, if Declan is too busy with work, couldn't he just consider not being so good at writing and drawing so everyone doesn't want him on all the projects?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm going to start self-sabotaging now just to give myself some free time.
So for me, what's hard is that, like, there was a period in my life when, like, I wanted everything in the biggest giant format possible. So like a book comes out that's single issues and I go, okay, I can wait a few months and read it digitally. And then I go, okay, the trade paperback's out, but that deluxe is going to come out. So now I've just committed. I'll just buy the trade, then the deluxe, then whatever. I just rebuy the formats and do giveaways on my channel for whatever the previous format was. But also, like, now that I'm doing more creator interviews, I feel more pressure to, I want to go back and start buying more single issues, because, like, I'm a big fan of voting with your dollar. You know what I mean? Like, I'll even buy things. Like, yeah.
From a creator point of view, like, I don't want you to feel pressured to buy X, Y, and Z. But being frank, if you're buying the single issues, it does, like, time before time, we can't. The sixth volume's coming out. The sixth and final volume's coming out in a couple of weeks. And I was talking about this on Near Mint recently, that, like, the financials, like, because he was asking about doing a collection of the whole thing, and, like, we just can't afford to, from a creator point of view. Like, the books need to sell more in order to warrant that. But also, we wouldn't have been able to get to volume 6 if people hadn't been buying single issues, And the single issue sales, ultimately, they'll start well and they'll kind of slowly atrophy. And what you want is, you want them to do this and not do this.
Yeah.
And we were doing maybe this, right? So it didn't hold strong, but it didn't tank immediately. And because of that, we were able to go to 29 issues. And, we didn't need to go any longer. We could have, but we didn't need to. But also, any less would have felt like we were cut short. So, I'm never going to say to somebody like, you need to do this. You need to. But you should be able to read in whatever format you want to read. You want to read digitally, you want to read trade, whatever. I tend to get single issues and then get the trades because I do know that does help people. But we're all in a different age now. We're all different types of readers, like somebody like you could make the argument, why even make single issues anymore? I'm not saying you're making that argument, but in theory, there are people who say like they shouldn't.
You have the Brubaker Phillips model, which for them seems to be
brilliant. It's brilliant, and I'm glad that they can do that. But you also need books that can sell every month, so that there's enough, I can get an advance, so I can draw Old Dog, probably because Saga sells so well. Image have a hit, so they can afford to maybe like support some creators so they can get their book done. It all one hand washes the other with this stuff. I don't want every book to be single issues, and I don't want every book to be a miniseries, and I don't want every book to be single graphic novels. We're in a great place where we can have all these different types of, like, Bog Bodies could have been 4 issues and it would have made more money, but I wanted it to be one single read. I felt like if you stopped after 20 pages, you wouldn't feel like you're stuck in the bog anymore. So for a story reason, I felt that had to be a graphic novel.
Bog Bodies was so great because there was no fluff on it. It was like an Ernest Hemingway comic book. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so distilled to what had to be there.
Yeah, and same with, like, I'm trying to think of an example, like Thundercats. Thundercats was supposed to be 12 to 15 issues. That's what I was told, and that's what I pitched. Now, because I'm working on the 3rd arc story now, like trying to figure that out, I have to reevaluate that now, because it was going to end a certain way, but now it's not going to end. It's going on, so I have to refigure that out. But it also means I get to like have other stories and kind of start to flesh those out. Like, there needs to be single issue ongoing comics. There has to be.
I'm not that far on the collected edition spectrum where I can't, you know what I mean?
Well, and I know you're not making the argument either, because I used to be like, why even bother? They should just make graphic novels all the time. You're like, that's not a sustainable model for everything, A healthy market for single issues is a healthy market for trades, is a healthy market for Old Dog could have been a graphic novel, but I would have made no money on it. The single issues paid for me to make the book, and now the trade is following on from that. There's different reasons to make stuff, and stories of different formats you want to tell them in. And I think it's an amazing thing where we are now, is like, if I say I want to do a 48 page, like the anthology, if I just want to do a 64 page one shot, I can. If I want to do a graphic novel, I can. I think it's such an amazing place to be where we are in comics right now, where it doesn't have to be one thing for everything.
Did we say if the anthology was going to be single issues, or was that coming out as a graphic novel?
It's coming out as a 64 page one shot. So it's just one.
Okay.
Yeah. So square bound 64 page one shot.
Got it. We have Super Laugh Hard saying,
frankly, I don't think anybody would have bought it as single issues, if I'm honest. Maybe they would have, I'm not sure. So I also am going to change the format of how I'm doing Old Dog. I'm going to do them as novellas going forward. So I thought it would be a good experiment to see how a 68 page book would do in the market. And it did better than issue 6 did, which is great. If I did issue 7 of Old Dog, it's not going to sell any more than issue 6.
Got it.
So the experiment, I think, is good that it sold more. It's not a lot. I'm getting into specifics here. I don't know if you really care about, or
dude, I'm interested in whatever you want to talk about, man. I'm interested in this stuff, and I feel like the chat is they're all supporting you.
Yeah, as long as you're interested and you're not like, I don't care. Get back to drawing.
Dude, I want you to know, it's a genuine privilege and honor to get to talk to you, man. I started making YouTube videos on my phone, and then somehow I just kept at it and got better, and now I'm able to like do interviews with creators. This is a dream come true, man. This is my favorite medium, and this is like how I want to give back to the industry, by doing interviews with creators, because like anything I can do, if I get one more person to buy one of your books, then I feel like I did a good job,
Well, thank you, and I hope one person does. That'll be good.
I hope more than one, but I'm saying I hope at least
more than one would be good too. Yeah, but look, that's it's an interesting thing to be doing now, like writing these kind of like IP kind of books, known properties and stuff. Will that help the creator owned? That's what I'm hoping. I certainly hope that me writing a time travel book like Terminator might help my time travel book, Time Before Time. I have no idea if it will or not. Probably won't. But all I can really do, and don't get me wrong, that's not like it's not the reason I took the book. It happened to be offered to me, and it's a cool project. But I definitely am always kind of thinking of, is there like a secondary line where this might help the stuff? Because ultimately, I love loads of different types of stories, and I'd like to work on X, Y, and Z. But having the safety net of going, if I can just make a book, and I know it'll sell enough that I can pay the bills, is huge.
Yeah.
Knowing I could make Old Dog was huge. Rather than having to take some job I don't really want to do. Everything I'm doing is by choice. Nothing I'm doing is by necessity, which is amazing. Not every creator is in a position like I am, so I'm very, very lucky. Which is why I think I'm always trying to. Ideally, the creator owned is helping the work for hire, and the work for hire is helping the creator owned, and there's a kind of a nice, positive feedback loop there. But at the same time, I've no idea, because I have no idea who buys the books or why or for what reason. You're flying blind with this stuff.
Have we released the name of the 64-page special yet? Or
sorry, yeah, it's called Old Dog Operations.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, just Google. Google Old Dog Operations Image Comics. Otherwise, because I made the mistake of googling Old Dog Operations.
No, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's okay. It's nothing graphic, but once I came, I was like, "Ooh, yeah,
oh
right."
My God,
Declan Shalvey after.
Internet's a slippery slope, man.
Because of me, it's Old Dog Operations, because it's spy shit. And then but if you just Google that blind, don't do that. But it's called Old Dog Operations issue 1, because it's a one shot, and it's out September 26th.
Okay, I'll try to find the link and add it to the description down below. So if you're seeing this later, it'll be linked down below, and I'll do my job. But
Thanks,
Adrian said, ready for the nitty-gritty details about Terminator. How detailed did you go on the covers for this series? So my question is, what do you think makes a good cover?
I think it's a good cover. Something that just grabs your eye. I think I think it's just, for me, it's a good illustration with a powerful use of composition. Sometimes you don't draw much. Sometimes you draw a lot. It really depends on the image. Like Terminator, the first Terminator cover, I was trying to be like striking and bold. It's not going to be a lot of work, but it's going to grab your attention. Like it's the face with the eyes and skulls around it. That's going to grab your attention. And then as I was drawing it was loads of work, because drawing all of the reflections on that helmet on the skull was way more work than I thought it was going to be. So some covers are going to be a lot more like technical work. Some are going to be less. The second Terminator cover is the Terminator in front of like a napalm explosion. Was
that the super realistic one with the fire, or?
Yeah, it's he's holding a gun and there's like a big like napalm explosion behind him.
For the thumbnail, I did I think the Terminator 1 skull as like the most of it, and then on the side was like the little flame napalm Terminator.
Okay, yeah. So that's the second one. The third one is actually really I slipped in my newsletter today. It was very simple, and it's actually a homage cover, which I personally don't like doing, but I had the idea and I thought, no, this will work. And that's basically against a white background, but the skull itself is a lot of work to do. So, I kind of balance between stuff that catches your eye. Sometimes it's lack of detail. Sometimes it's a lot of detail. It depends on the image. It depends on the story. A lot of I like pinup covers. I like what's the last? I'm trying to think last Marvel.
Oh, are we going to see a Terminator pinup?
Oh, like no, I don't mean like sexy. Yeah, it'll just be
I'm just kidding, man.
No, but you know what I mean, I'm trying to think. Mystique issue 1 is like a pinup cover, and that is just like a shot of the character with lots of other characters. Sometimes just a hero shot, we put it that way, a hero shot cover can be very boring. And it can be very fun, depending. If all you're doing is hero covers, it's going to be boring. But if you just get to do one hero cover in the middle of all these other kind of like narrative covers, it can be a huge amount of fun. So it depends. It depends on what the book is and what the story is. But ultimately, when I'm doing a cover, I'm trying to find the most direct image that will grab your eye. And that can be composition, and it can be concept, it can be color, But fundamentally, I'm starting from like I'm trying to think. Do I my book here? Do I? Had it here earlier. Oh yeah, nope, that's not it. Okay, can't find it. But I always start like with a small image of my sketchbook like this, and seeing is that going to grab your attention.
I'm not trying to draw any parallels to me being an artist, because I'm a terrible artist, but I feel like the use of composition to be eye-catching is something that I deal with in the thumbnail world of content creation, because you only have one chance to see your thumbnail, and you have to you don't want to overcrowd it. Sometimes less is more, and you just have 2 seconds to have someone click on your video. So I can kind of relate to a little bit of what you're saying. We have James sharing the link to your Substack.
Oh, cool. Thanks, James. Yeah, I just posted a new one, but
that was a cocky comment.
Yeah, and then the foggy Caro window comes up, and the hand goes instead of it being sweaty. Thanks for that, James. Yeah, I have a newsletter that I put out every 2 weeks where I'll show stuff. Like I just showed the next Mystique cover and the next Terminator cover, because it's private. I try and it's like a work blog where I talk about what I'm working on, but also I try and just have little teases of things that are coming up.
Well, awesome, man. I think I am running out of time. I have to go to my actual work job today.
Sure.
But what I'll give you a chance, soapbox, plug whatever you want to plug. So what can they see coming on the horizon for you, and how can they support you?
Well, thanks very much, man. I would say, let me think. Okay, so
list all 7 projects right now. Go. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I'm trying. Oh God.
Okay, we got Terminator, we got Mystique, we got the anthology.
Okay, so no, I can listen. Sorry, I'm just going to. I was checking my own newsletter because I haven't written down. So okay, September. Yeah, September 28th. Sorry, 25th. There's the Old Dog Operations one shot is out, as is Phases of the Moon Knight issue 2, where I wrote and designed a new Moon Knight for that. Thundercats issue 8 is out that day as well, as is Time Before Time Volume 6.
Oh my gosh.
As is Deadpool Team Up, which I did a variant cover for, and Star Trek Defiant, which I did a variant cover for. So that's September 25th.
That's a busy day, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm going to be on. I'm just going to be on the internet all day promoting that stuff. October 9th is Terminator issue 1, and I'm really, really happy with it. It looks so good. And October 16th is Mystique issue 1, as well as Thundercats issue 9 and Thundercats Volume 1 hardcover. And then anything else? I think that the hardcover of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black, White, and Green is out. I wrote into a story for that. That's in November. But please God,
do you have any break coming on the horizon, man? Like a vacation or anything?
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
This Christmas. I'm going to finish Mystique just before Christmas, and then I'm just going to sleep, I think. But it's tough,
then
man.
You gotta get back. You gotta get back to Bog Bodies, man. We're waiting.
Yeah. I mean, but that's it. That'll be what I'll do then. But how lucky am I? Like all those things I mentioned. If I was just doing one of those things, it would be so cool.
Yeah.
If I was just doing Terminator, writing and doing covers, that would be so cool. If I was just doing Thundercats, it'd be so cool. If I was just doing Mystique, so I'm in such a great place where I'm getting to do lots of fun stuff that pays the bills, and then create our own stuff that pays the bills. I'm if I wasn't me, I'd hate me.
That's awesome, man. Well, this was a genuine treat. Thank you, everyone who joined in live, and keep reading and stay brave.